on the wall, it appears as though we have the videos going on.
The meeting started off out there.
So we've got to turn the light out.
So our program this evening is for the Public Housing Authority repositioning, and we'll go ahead and start with a special meeting and presentation.
Mayor. Carrie Fredrickson, Public Housing Executive Director. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This was way more than I expected, so it's exciting. The purpose of this meeting is just to go over the options. I know we've had a couple of resident meetings already, so some of you know a little bit, and then hopefully by the end we can get a consensus from council on whether or not they want us to pursue any certain options, get more information, say, no, we don't want to do this at all, kind of thing. So I guess we will just get right to it if nobody has questions initially. You will have questions at the end or time at the end to ask questions, make any comments, concerns. If there's anything in particular you want council to know, at the end will be the perfect time to let them know if you have any certain concerns, whatever that you want them to consider when making a decision. Okay? All right. Rick, will you turn off the lights for me? Can everybody see okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we are going to discuss public housing repositioning. HUD contacted me about this last May, and ever since then I've done meetings, conference calls, webinars, many things trying to get as much information as I can about it. I will tell you, I most likely will not have every answer tonight because, let's be honest, we're talking about HUD. So I will make a list of anything that I don't have an answer for and make sure I find out from HUD and get that answer to everybody, okay? But I will try my best. I've learned a lot in the last almost year, so hopefully I can cover most of them. All right. So, repositioning is being encouraged by HUD because of lack of funding for capital needs. We cannot incur debt for those needs. We solely have to run on the money that the government gives us, which seems to drop every year. Trump has actually proposed zero money for capital funds in his last 4 budgets, and he's dropped operating subsidies. And I think that that is one of the reasons why HUD is really pushing this. It would eliminate paperwork and reporting requirements that are a burden on staff. They're mostly pushing the smaller PHAs, which is obviously what we are. So me being a single staff person, I'm the one that does all of their required reporting on top of running everything. So it can just get burdensome sometimes. It would also help maintain PHA sustainability. The reality is PHAs aren't going to last on the path that they're on, if we're being honest. It's not like they're going to go away next year or, I mean, it will gradually happen, but they just can't realistically sustain on the money that we get currently. It would eliminate prevailing wages at Davis-Bacon. For those of you that don't know what that is, for any project over $2,000, we have to pay prevailing wages on what little money we already get. For instance, we had a water main break on one of our Inslee buildings a couple months ago, I don't know, and it was bid at just under $2,000. So we didn't have to do the Davis-Bacon. We ran into a problem while they were doing it, putting it over $2,000, and that turned into a $7,000 project. So we are spending more money on Davis-Bacon than what projects actually would be. I had the roof bid at $25,000 by one contractor, not using Davis-Bacon. So once that is bid at Davis-Bacon, I'm estimating $50,000 to $60,000 at least. So just to give you an idea of how much more money we're spending, having that requirement, because we're federal funds. And as it currently stands, our operating subsidy amounts are unknown year to year. They don't even tell us. I don't know how much money I'm getting operating subsidy this year. We don't find out usually until March or April. So every year, like in December when we just did our budget, it was an estimation on previous years. We can't accurately budget our funds because we don't know yet what we're getting. So what are our options? We can continue to stay a PHA. This is not a requirement yet. I don't know if they'll make it one eventually. They are just strongly encouraging it. We can switch to the RAD conversion, which is rental assistance demonstration, and I'm going to talk about all of these. We can go to a Section 18 conversion, or we can be absorbed by the KCK Housing Authority. So those are the four main options that we will discuss tonight. So rental assistance demonstration, or RAD, as we call it, both of these options are essentially Section 8. We would need an that HCV is Housing Choice Voucher Program to administer vouchers, which would be KCK. So no matter what option we're using, we would in some way or another develop a relationship with KCK. The Housing Choice Vouchers are essentially Section 8, so we have to use a housing authority that is already issuing those Section 8 vouchers. We can't do it because we don't do Section 8 vouchers here. So we would have to partner with them to do it. They require replacement reserves of $500 a unit a year, so that would have to be part of our budget. It does not require rescreening of residents, so everybody that is already here would still qualify to be able to stay in their unit. We would be able to keep our reserves, which currently we have almost 10.5 months in reserves. I think it's around $200,000-ish. We would get to keep that with this conversion. It would go on a 15 to 20 year contract where your rates are guaranteed to never lower. The rates that we get when we sign are the rates that they will be for that entire contract. There is essentially a cost of living adjustment, so they can slightly increase every year, but they would never go below our base contract amount. Residents would still pay 30% of their income. All the rent would still be determined exactly how it is now. Deductions, 30% of your income, that sort of thing. So that would not change. The voucher would pay the difference of the RAD rents. So if you can see the RAD rents, it's on your spreadsheet also. These are the current RAD rents for our property. So say a residence rent for a studio is $200. We would essentially get a voucher from KCK for that additional $236 for that unit. So we would have more income that way, because I'm not just getting $200 for that unit, I'm now getting $436 total. It's just coming from two different places. The only difference with that is income is capped at what we receive now. With RAD, we can just incur debt. So what that means is they still use the same formula of what our capital funds and our operating is currently, and they cap it at what we've been getting. So we're not really getting any more money per se, but we can incur debt. So if we need capital projects, we can get a loan. We can get private investors. We can't do any of that right now. We can also partner with a local nonprofit to operate as well. I talked to some other smaller housing authorities, Augusta, Wichita, and I don't remember the other one, but they are switching to RAD and partnering with a nonprofit. Essentially another entity would have to be created. You partner with the nonprofit, the contracts are negotiable. If that's an option that you want to go to, we can talk deeper about that at a later date. Does anybody have questions? Section 18 conversion is the same concept, but it's using fair market rates instead of the RAD rents. Fair market rates are the flat rate rents that were just approved in October. So it's the same concept. If a resident has $200 in rent, we get a voucher for the difference. Reeves is here. Will you open that? Just stop right there. It'll open.
It's not there.
Thank you. So we would get the voucher for the difference. If iffy, not iffy, but thing to keep in mind with FMRs is those can fluctuate. If the session hits, they'll drop, they can always go higher, obviously. So that would need to be kept in mind. That's a little riskier, I guess, because they are not guaranteed to not drop. But as you can see, they're pretty high, and we're in the KCK fair market rate, so HUD is expecting that we wouldn't have that problem because that's generally a higher area. So, with, again, KCK-HA would have to relinquish the vouchers for the difference. So again, a partnership with them. KCK would also have to determine the rent reasonableness. So just because our FMRs are this rate, amenities, updates, all of those things are considered. KCK could come in and say, I don't think your unit is worth the $678 at fair market right now due to those reasons. We would give you this much. So that is enough. That will happen also. You can go back to them later as we do capital updates and such to get that increase. So I just wouldn't expect the highest rate initially. Sorry. No, you're good. This one does require the rescreening of residents, and what they're looking for there is being over income. I think I only have one or two that might be questionable, but for the most part it doesn't affect very many people. The three sub options of this is doing another nonprofit. We could create our own nonprofit. The city would still, it would essentially be the city creating a nonprofit and operating that way. We could sell to a nonprofit, it would have to be under market value, and they would have to be required for a contract to keep it affordable housing for 30 years. The option nobody wants, including myself, is selling to a developer at market rates. We do not get that money. It goes back to HUD, and they can do whatever they want with the property. They will not have to keep it affordable housing. And then down here you can see the FMRs that are current. Again, that doesn't mean that they're guaranteed based on rent reasonableness.
So that means that the rent the resident pays wouldn't change, but the amount that's reimbursed through the voucher program could be reduced based on rent reasonableness.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Vouchers would change more with this one.
The rent reasonableness?
None
Well,
of the voucher would change more, be less or more based on fair market.
yes. Though for the last 5 years since I've been here, there's been nothing but increase in fair market rates in this area. So I don't think, unless a massive recession hits, I don't think that it would be a true concern. I just wanted to make sure that that was out there.
Are there any positives to Section 18 then?
No.
Seems to me there's a lot of negatives pointed out.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind with RAD, you can do a lot of this. You can partner with a nonprofit, you can make another entity. They're all very similar, it's just where the difference in the rent is coming from. I don't know of any housing authorities that are doing Section 18. Most of them are doing RAD. But their RAD rents are also higher than ours. If you look at our RAD rents and our affordable market rents, they're quite drastically different, with FMR being quite a bit higher. The other negative of RAD is that you are capped at what we're already getting. Whereas with fair market, we have the chance to make more, actually make money.
I was going to say, the one thing I saw that really kind of bothered me is staff is on this group would be punished for being so efficient because you've got a nice reserve balance and all of a sudden you'd have to give that up.
Right. Well, we don't have to give it up necessarily. We can't have it sitting in the bank when we convert, but I can go spend it on capital needs before we close. So it would still go back in the property. We're not losing it. We would just be starting over after conversion, building up a new reserve.
So that difference between rent received and voucher received would help rebuild that reserve.
Right.
And the cap on the, sort of looking for, the income cap, is that cap in place forever? During the end of the RAD program?
It's the Yeah, the section 18 requires reskinning, yes.
So under
There
RAD,
would be the income limits. also.
under RAD, you said the income is capped at what we receive now.
Right.
Is that in perpetuity, or is there a contract limit on that? Where it would be reviewed?
No, the only time that it would change after that you're in that contract is your yearly, cost of living adjustment. That will be the only time that RAD would increase at all, period. Whereas if you had fair market, if fair market rates increase next year, so would your fair market rents for your units. This is a Spark tool that I'm not gonna spend too much time on because quite honestly, these numbers are not specifically ours. HUD just wanted me to,
No, we're fine.
okay. HUD just wanted me to include it so that you can get a general idea of what the, income differences would be. But again, they're not 100% accurate because they're betting on 100% FMR. They even have 90% FMR, whereas right now, our FMRs for rents are 80%, just because of the outdated, the lack of amenities. So these are not true numbers, so don't hold us to that, but even in this demonstration, you can see that FMR brings in a little more money. So if anybody wants any more information or explanation on that, I can definitely take your questions and ask HUD. I've only reviewed this with HUD myself once or twice, just because it's not true numbers per se, so.
So who determines the amount of, looking at the RAD program, who determines the amount of the voucher?
Well, the voucher is, you mean the RAD rents?
Well, yes.
Because that's what they are.
Yes.
So, yeah, that actually comes from HUD. HUD has,
So HUD determines the amount of the rent by unit size.
mm-hmm,
We determine the amount of rent paid by the residents,
mm-hmm,
and then the HCV makes up the difference.
Yes.
Through a voucher.
yep,
I'm learning.
yeah. And just to clarify, HUD has many different platforms. HUD does not just public housing. HUD is actually over all of these options that we're talking about also. They are just not, these options are just not bound to the public housing operating budget. So there's more money essentially, and our money becomes defederalized. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Section 8, has ever worked with Section 8. But for instance, when I was in the private sector, my property accepted Section 8 vouchers. So KCK, my resident would pay me rent, and then KCK would pay me the difference. It's federalized money when HUD gives it to KCK, but when KCK gave it to my private property, it was no longer federalized, because I'm getting it from KCK. I'm not getting it from HUD. So it's it gets very convoluted, so that's why I'm sure this will not be the last of our meetings.
This is my second question.
Do you want a chair, George?
Yeah, I see one right here.
Well, here.
No, that's the con.
That's the council.
That one's an empty one.
Thank you.
Okay. Just hold on a second. So another option we have is bypassing all of the paperwork, all of the creations of a new entity. Keep in mind, we are a small housing authority. It's just me. Doing any of these conversions would incur attorney fees, look over contracts, probably capital assessment fees, that sort of stuff. KCK is interested in the property. They would keep it as public housing. It would just no longer be Bonner Springs responsible. This board would no longer be over it. Sean would no longer be over it. It would be KCK and part of their portfolio.
Would you stay, Carrie?
I would not.
Oh.
They have already told me if they take it, that my position is not needed. But I'm not going to keep that from presenting it to you. If you feel that that's the best option, then obviously we're here for the best option of the property and the residents. They told me they would probably bring in a part-time office secretary type thing. All of the paperwork would move to their office, so they would essentially just move somebody in here to answer phone calls and answer questions. The other one is consortium, which is very rare. I haven't heard of anybody doing it. I just wanted to mention it, where KCK would add it to their portfolio, but we still maintain responsibility, I guess, for the property. KCK did say that they would keep it public housing themselves, and then eventually down the road when they convert, they are doing conversions also. So when they convert their public housing units, they would convert this one as well. I don't know what that would be to, but it wouldn't, you wouldn't have really a say in what they do with it at that point. So.
What are the benefits to that idea?
You know, initially I didn't think of any. Honestly,
I'm
I'm like, I'm out of a job, like it's,
Yeah.
you know. But when I talked to the Wichita Housing Authority, I mentioned that to her, and she had brought up economies of scale, which makes totals. Once she explained it, it made sense. They're bigger, they get more money, they could do things even on public housing funds. They could do more than what we could do by ourselves. The housing authority would no longer be paying my salary, so there's more money. Maintenance would probably go part-time. There's more money. So there are positives to it.
How would this, Carrie, how would this affect the residents?
I'm sorry?
How would this affect the residents going into this strategic?
It would still be ran. The rent would still be the same. Their rent is, I mean, it is still public housing. So rent would still be determined. They would just have to call KCK, well, or the office, whoever they bring in for the office, to place work orders and stuff. But applications would be ran at KCK Housing Authority. HUD did say we can put it in the contract to leave our waiting list here so that new applicants could still apply here instead of having to go to KCK.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's a long drive for
Yeah.
people.
So we can make that, they said the contracts are very negotiable, so we could put it in the contract that we want our waiting list and our applicants to still be able to apply here instead of having to go there. They also said, I don't know how many of you know, but I went back to school last year and I graduate in October. So losing my job right before I get my degree was a concern. So HUD said that we could even negotiate with them to, they can have it if that's what you decide, but put in the contract that they're not getting it until at least I graduate, so I have a better chance of getting a better job.
Yay.
So there are some positives. I'm not gonna voice my, I don't know that I wanna have on record what I think, but I will tell you, if you ask me, but.
That will be one
Okay,
question.
tell us.
Yeah, that's good.
Big
You wanna know?
You're the subject matter expert.
As long as you're gonna have it.
Yeah, because we're gonna want a professional opinion on all of this, so.
Yeah, what's that? What you think best?
Okay, you know,
Do you want to go through the next couple
Yes.
slides?
Yeah,
We can do that, okay.
Stop
Okay.
getting me out.
I will give you my opinion at the end.
What's that?
Okay, so the bigger picture is the main goal of repositioning is to determine the best option for the residents in the community. I can personally speak for myself, and I think for all of you, and definitely all of you, we don't want public housing to go away. I don't
No.
want to put
No,
everybody on the streets that
no.
by far not even remotely close to what we want to do. So, keeping it affordable housing and making the best decision to be able to progress and improve the way of living here.
Yeah.
Right now we're stuck. We can't afford to do the stuff that we need to do because of our regulations. So finding a better option where we could do that stuff and improve the home of all of you is number one goal here. As I've already said, PHA cannot sustain its current path forever. I can't give you a timeline, but I will tell you that this will not exist like this forever. It just, there's no way.
Right.
There's no way. So the question comes to, do we do something about it now while we're still somewhat ahead? Or do we wait until we really start to worry?
What do you mean by exists like it exists now?
We can't afford
For
to,
it.
eventually, the reality is we won't be able to afford to operate the way that we are funded right now.
Probably pay straight out flat.
So what is gonna change that's beneficial to the tenant?
You too.
Well, that depends on the options. That's what we were just discussing, all these options. And I have, you can have my copy actually. That's the copy of the benefits and the details of each option. And no decision is being made on, yes, we're doing this one tonight. This is just kind of an info kind of night. Again, it would eliminate prevailing wages, which would save us a ton of money. We'd be able to actually do projects and do them at a real rate instead of triple what everybody else is paying that is not using federal funds. It would eliminate the ups and downs of waiting on government funding, which is mostly down. We would be able to update the property due to that funding. And this is a great opportunity. I don't know that it's ever been talked about for the city and the board and the residents to really think about what relationship they want. Does the city still want to be responsible for this? Do you still want our staff to be city staff? And have that say overhead over it? Do you just want to keep it public housing and you're okay if somebody else takes over it? So that's a good time to have that talk as well. So obviously this will not be the last meeting. I'm hoping that from this meeting we can just kind of get an idea of, is there an option that we're absolutely taking off the table? Is there an option you want more information on? Questions that I might not have answers to, gather all that information, meet again, sort of thing. Once we make a decision, we would open a comment period and all of that before making an official and going to the board and making the change. If we want to partner with a nonprofit or sell with a nonprofit, we would need to locate one. So if anybody had any ideas on that.
What does that look like, Mary? What type of a nonprofit or what?
It really just depends. It doesn't matter which one. If there's, I mean, they don't have to be specifically housing. If there's an already existent nonprofit that would like to move into affordable housing, they can have it. I actually have, I'll pass it around. I don't have but I can make more. I get letters like these all the time. There are companies that actually purchase public housing to convert them to just affordable housing nonprofits, and then they can run them. So that is an option also, and I will definitely make copies of that if you want it. And then we would make a motion to move forward, and we would notify HUD, and then the process starts.
No timeline yet though, right?
There's no timeline, there's no decision or anything. The amount of time really depends on how quickly a decision is made, because that's the longest part. KCK takeover, if we don't ask them to wait until the end of the year, it could be as little as 60 days. It can happen quickly. The turnaround, especially because we're smaller, the turnaround for RAD Section 18, they're telling me 6 months to a year-ish.
But if KCK takes over, we still can stay here though, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
We'll still have our freedom. We won't have to go sleep on somebody's couch.
Right.
Okay. So I think that's on the PowerPoint. Hold on, residents. I do want to remind you that this is a public meeting, which means everything here is being recorded. Please raise your hand to speak so that the video is not all jumbled. Rick, can you turn on the lights, please? And when you are called upon, you will have to state your name and your address for public record. If you do not want to do that, feel free to ask me questions afterwards or whatnot. So I don't know if, does the council want to ask questions first, or do you want to hear from residents first?
I think it'd be probably go back and forth, but I think if we give some of the council an opportunity to ask some questions, that might answer some of the questions that the residents have. And then we'll ask the residents what questions they have that might not have been covered.
Right, okay, sounds good. I'm gonna grab my
So, Sean, do you have anything to add first, or anything? Okay. Do we have a little bit of history on the Public Housing Authority? How long has this been a?
It was actually founded in built in 1970. This year is our 50-year anniversary. We are holding an open house. We're going to celebrate that in May, so you guys will be hearing about that. But yes, 50 years. It's only had 3 executive directors. One was here for 25 years, the other one just under 2, and then I've been here for 5.
Yeah, wow.
So it is just Paul and I that run it, and that is my alarm.
It goes off like this every night.
Get your attention, yeah.
So,
Thank you.
yeah. So, yeah, that's,
And remind everybody how, you made mention how small this is, but how many units and
we have 50 units total. 30 are in this building, 24 studios, 6 one-bedrooms. The rest are in 5 fourplexes, 2 4-bedrooms, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 2-bedrooms, and 8 3-bedrooms.
And how full is it right now? Or
We are always 100% occupied. And we have a waiting list of, it is so hard to give an accurate time frame, but I'm telling new applicants 1 to 2 years. Yeah.
And primarily you serve people from this area or all of?
Surprisingly, no. I do have Bonner residents on my waiting list, but most of my residents are from KCK. Or most of my applicants are from KCK.
Most of your applicants are
Yes.
from KCA, but not necessarily most of your residents.
Right.
Okay. Those were just some of my general questions. We'll start down here with Mr. Shannon. Now, please, sir.
Yes, I know I think I know generally what this would involve, but tell me what it would involve in partnering with a nonprofit organization. I have an idea, and I need to hear what all would be required of a nonprofit organization.
Well, I think most of that, I haven't delved too much into that, but most of that is the contract negotiation. Everything's up for negotiation. I do know that one of the housing authorities I spoke with that partnered, the nonprofit got 49% ownership and the housing authority maintained 51% ownership. And they both just managed it together, nonprofit company with essentially the funding operation, and then the housing authority managed it and ran it. So their program just changed in the sense that they now had 2 owners and they weren't relying on the federal money.
So where was the subsidy for the rent assistance coming from? Federal program?
They went to, I believe they did the RAD conversion with that partnership, which the RAD is the one that caps you at what they are already making. So that housing authority can now use nonprofit money, the difference in the RAD money, or they could go incur debt and get a loan or private investors.
And then you could raise the rate or that RAD to cover your debt.
RAD would not increase.
So if you go and incur debt, how are you going to pay for that debt?
Well, that is where they partnered with they said the nonprofit was working that.
So the nonprofit, are you talking about philanthropic funds that are going to be given, or the nonprofit would raise money somehow to cover those expenses?
I didn't ask for specifics, but I would assume that the nonprofit was doing fundraisers.
Fundraisers, so that's
Yeah.
a little bit different.
Right.
Nonprofit doesn't You know, it can mean that people are giving it
Right.
money, but it
Right.
can also mean that it's just not making money. It's
Right.
charging, it's doing all those things to cover its cost and not having a profit.
Right.
So the increase in debt would be incurring more expense.
And that would obviously be something, again, many discussions to come.
Yeah, right.
But that would obviously be something, if you wanted to go the nonprofit route, then that would be something we would have to discuss with them on how they see that going. Would they be willing to raise funds? Like, how do they want to manage that?
Well, can I ask a question in that same regard then? With the nonprofit, then, the nonprofit really is not necessarily, your RAD program would still be through Section 8, let's say. It's still through vouchers from KCK. The nonprofit is just an additional potential funding source to
Correct.
help. But not actually running the operations. That's still, you're still getting your vouchers from Section 8 through KCK.
Council, any others?
Anything else? Ma'am?
Oh, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of questions. I wouldn't mind hearing from some of the residents. The one thing that, I'm wondering if, are we ready for Carrie's story of,
Yeah.
with the absorption?
Yeah.
I see this as, you get absorbed, you become a small fish in a big pond, and our resources gonna be allocated out here on an equitable basis. We've already fight some of that currently. And, you know, if there's no significant benefit to the residents, is absorption a really good choice, but.
Well, first I wanna say that the money, so KCK would still get an allocated amount of money from HUD, because it was City Public Housing, and it's for us. They have to show in their budgets how that money that they're getting for us is being allocated for us. So they wouldn't, it wouldn't be to make their property better while they leave this one alone. Like, they still have to show that they are spending our money over here. Some other things to keep in mind are, as far as staff, it's really hard to find somebody to fill this position. I know a lot of you weren't here before I came along, but I found old memos. They couldn't fill this position for 3 months before I was hired. They tried to give it to actually KCK and the UG at the time because of how hard it is just to find. I mean, the reality is this is a small property. They were worried about people going to school, moving on, getting better jobs. Not better, but you know, like,
Right.
I don't, you'll take that the way that sounded. That sounded awful. I didn't mean it that way. So that was a concern of theirs back then that they mentioned in the memo. And then so those are other things to keep in mind. With the KCK absorption also is, like I said, I didn't think of any positives until they mentioned that you're not paying an EV. You have the economies of scale that are larger. Their EV fee is already in their budget. It opens up this money. If you can't tell, I think KCK absorption is the best option. Simply for all of those reasons. And I just lost my train of thought. But the economy of scale is the biggest thing because they would have more money. So when they do their own repositioning, it's a whole team of resources and staff to meet with the lawyers and to build contracts with nonprofits and to do all the contracts and the assessments. Whereas here, it's me hoping I can do it, and we're smaller, we don't have a lot of resources. My biggest fear is if we do one of those conversions, we spend a lot of our money just trying to do the conversion with lawyer fees and contract costs and time and staff and resources. Quite frankly, I don't know that I have the resources to do it on my own. Whereas over there, they're a lot bigger. They have the staff and the resources and the money to do it.
So painting that picture, nothing would change in terms of rents and operating capital in the immediate. Then as they decide down the road if they're gonna have to go to one of these programs, everything changes.
It would eventually go to one of these options. They didn't give me a timetable on that either. I don't know how long they're looking at for that, but, there are, like you said, negatives to it too. The landlord, I guess, is 20 minutes away. But KCK has that, I don't wanna say problem, but they're used to dealing with that. They are not in one location. I don't know if anybody knows that, but they have thousands of units all over the place. So they're not all centrally located around their office anyway. So this is something that they are used to. So it's not a total negative for them, but,
But there wouldn't necessarily be a first responder maintenance person who.
they would still have maintenance here. I do not know if they would do it part-time or full-time. I imagine they would do part-time, if I'm being honest.
Which means you may have a little less coverage.
Right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't absolve them of the responsibility to make maintenance in a reasonable amount of time.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but a lot of this stuff, as far as the negatives or the positives or what have you, is dictated by an agreement with KCK to take over as a consortium, right? Up to and including the level of ownership of the buildings. So the
Yes.
city could still retain a 51% stake in the buildings, right?
If KCK absorbs it, it's theirs.
Yeah.
But then there's two options. There's a consortium option and then there's the KCK full absorption.
Right, yeah, the consortium, the city would still have a say. It would still be Bonner Springs Housing Authority. It would just be a part of KCK's portfolio. I'm not, like I said, I can definitely find out more information about that. I don't know what that would happen to me. In a year of talking to everybody about all of this, I did not hear about that option until about 3 weeks ago. I don't think it's used very often.
The consortium.
Yeah.
Has some positives.
I will say KCK, they asked them before I started if they wanted it. They at the time said no, for 2 reasons. I have since told them that those have been repaired. I didn't even know that was their problem. And now they're very eager. I've gotten emails, so when's the meeting? Like, they are very interested in it. I can even have the executive director from there. He is willing to come and meet with you guys and the residents and answer any questions or concerns that you might have also, if that's another route you wanted to go.
That may be something that would be beneficial to learn from. How many units does the Kansas Public Housing Authority have? You said thousands?
Yeah, I don't know their exact number, but I want to say between 2,500 and 3,000.
And their wait list is incredible.
Great. Which is why I would definitely, if we went that route, suggest keeping the waiting list here.
And that's units, not necessarily facilities, so they have.
Right. Yeah.
Is there any way that, and I don't know if you do this now or not, but obviously part of the intent of the Housing Authority in Bonner Springs initially was to provide the service to people of Bonner Springs.
Right.
Can that be restricted through that transfer or consolidation with KCK to say that the wait list priority would be based on Bonner Springs residents first?
Yeah.
And then KCK or anywhere else after that? Again, I just getting down to the foundation as far as what the goal of initially the Republic Housing Authority of Bonner Springs was to provide a service to people of Bonner Springs. Was that, or is that something maybe we can look into?
I definitely think it could be a contract negotiation. So right now we have preferences, which are elderly disabled and working 20 hours. As far as I know, that's what the Housing Authority was built with. With the new contract, we could ask them to either eliminate one of those or add another one of being a Bonner resident. For instance, Olathe Housing Authority has a preference for Olathe residents, as long as the elderly, disabled, and working preference as well. So that could definitely be a contract negotiation.
I think that would be the biggest fear, at least as I look at it, that you would lose out on, again, this being a Bonner Springs autonomous sort of function. That's what you're losing if you're getting it to somebody else, but if that can be retained through a contract, that would resolve, I think, a lot of people's.
So the only caveat to that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Von Trent, has it always been USD 204 school district? If so, then probably increase that coverage to what Von Trent was, which was Bonner, Edwardsville, and there was a small part of KCK, which would be the USD 204.
And could that be arranged to be in perpetuity, or is that
Right.
Yeah.
limited, like in a year or two or three or something that goes whatever way?
I think it could be whichever you want to have them do. Keep in mind though, as I stated, I can only think of probably 5 to 10 people on my waiting list that are Bonner residents currently. Most of them are from KCK area already. I don't know why they're all coming over here, but they are, and that's the majority of my waiting
We
list.
wanted peace and quiet.
Yeah, it's a lot quieter over here.
It was like quiet.
Yeah, that one. I have a question.
It's beautiful.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hold on just a second,
Yeah.
guys.
please.
Okay, remember, please only speak one at a time. Raise your hand, state your name and your address for the record when you are called on. If you have a question, please.
Yes.
Susan.
Susan Shipley, 420 North Park Avenue, apartment C9, Bonner Springs, Kansas, 66012. I think a lot of the decision that the residents had to think about, most of the people here have pets. And I think, will pets still be allowed to be here? Do you know?
Again, that could be, like, if it switches to Route or Section 18, I mean, that's essentially our decision, and I don't see why it wouldn't be. KCK, I would have to look into, again, that could just be another contract negotiation. I mean, if anything, I would just keep it the same as it is, because it's not, we have a weight limit and a number limit for a reason, and they're pretty minute, so, yeah. Mary.
Blank for a minute, I'm a blank. Wait, it's on. Okay. Mary Lau, 421 North Park Avenue. I came from Kansas City, Kansas, and I picked Bonner Springs for a reason. KCK just, I needed to get out of there, and there's a lot of KCK residents that feel that way. It's really, this is Bonner Springs, but we're all Wyandotte County. But KCK is just, it's gotten really bad in a lot of areas. And if you look on the news, you see it. And that's why, I picked Bonner, a nice, quiet town, good schools for my grandkids, exceptional schools, I believe. And kind of in response to your, because I was a KCK resident, I got able to bring that in. I came to Bonner. I'm a law-abiding citizen because I did not want to live in the heart of Wyandotte County any longer. I needed something better.
Thank you. Anybody else? Done?
Deborah Hurley, 420 North Park, apartment AC, Bonner Springs, Kansas, 66712.
You're A1, hun.
Huh?
You're A1.
What did I say?
AC.
Stay on the third floor, I finally got to move to the first floor. I'm in A1. My question is for smokers. The smoking policy we have here allows us to have smoking areas outside on the grounds. If KCK were to take over, would they implement their smoking rules here? Because I looked up online and their smoking policy is no smoking anywhere on the property. You have to go to the street. They do not have any designated smoking areas for residents. So no matter what the weather is, you would be out on the street to smoke.
Okay, you gotta talk to Pat now.
Huh?
You're gonna make them cry.
So I really want to know if it gets switched and KCK is over us, are we still going to have at least our smoking areas at that end of the building and out back in the north end of the parking lot?
Yeah, that is, I noted it. I can email the ED over there and see, or if we decide that it's best for him to just come and talk to you guys, and then everybody can get their answers at once, we can do that too. But I have it noted to find out one way or another.
Okay. And another question, sorry guys, real quick. On any of these other programs between the KCK where they give the vouchers to help make up the rent, the RAD, or the...
Section 18?
Yeah. I think you said on our RAD, on the RAD that our rent would still stay at 30%.
They do, it does for both of them.
Oh, okay, that's, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good evening, my name is Candy Glenn Caldwell, and I live at 1322 Cleveland Avenue, Kansas City, Kansas. And I'm proud to say I am a Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County resident. I am Vice President of my neighborhood association, which is Organization for Community Preservation, OCP Inc. I'm also Community Service Advocate for Economic Opportunity Foundation, EOF. I am also a former employee of Kansas City, Kansas Housing Authority. And I just had a few comments to make about the Kansas City, Kansas Housing Authority. There are family developments. There are also senior developments. Let me think. Youth Build is a part of the KCK Housing Authority. It's a program for the youth where they have an apprenticeship where the children can learn trades. Also, they have Gear Up. It's an educational program for the children. So I would just like to say, under the absorption of the Kansas City, Kansas Housing Authority may be a good thing. You have more benefits. Again, it's numerous family developments, and also they have the senior. I can name a few: Belrose Manor in off of 39th Street, Westwood area. Then you have some on 61st and Leavenworth Road, which are catered to the elderly. Then you have some St. Margaret's, that's off of, yeah, and they're all on the bus route, okay? So I just had the general comment and just one question. If you go to the vouchers, will the residents be given a priority as far as the Section 8 waiting list?
Good question. As you were talking, I actually realized I did not talk about that. I would have, all of these are my notes from the many, many conference calls and meetings I've been to and regarding this. So I don't remember right offhand which one is which. One of the programs allows transfer after a year. So our residents could get a voucher essentially to move to another Section 8 program after a year of conversion. The other one is 2 years. So either way, you would get an option if you decide you don't want to be here anymore, you want a house. You can get on the list with KCK Housing Authority to get a Section 8 voucher to find a house that takes that voucher.
Okay. And the one that the Housing Authority gives out is the one that has portability. Like you said, that you stay in residence for 1 year, you can take that voucher anywhere in the United States that accepts the Section 8 voucher. And that's the one that has the portability. And I just wanted to add, when you go into the Section 8 and you go into the private sector, that means the apartments that are owned by the apartment complexes, or you go into a house, you with the Section 8 landlord, they have to go through inspections, like you said, and then you also have to go through the credit checks. If it's an apartment complex, you have to pass their credit checks, and then also you're responsible for that cash deposit. Thank you for your time this evening. proud of
Thank you, Candy.
Kansas City, Kansas,
Thank
Wyandotte
you.
County.
Thank you. Good information.
Any other residents currently? Jessica?
I do want to say,
Hey.
I'm Jessica Gilbreth, 217 North Park Avenue here in Bonner. I have been here for quite a few years. I came here a single mother of two. I have raised both of my children here in the same unit. I've been here through the ups and downs and different people managing and you guys trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, I know there are several options on the table, and I know there's a lot of people here that, you know, have concerns about where we're all going to end up in the end, and hope that we are not the low ones on the totem pole. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate all of you coming tonight and letting us say what we need to say and letting us see that there is somebody on our side.
Thank you, Jessica. You're definitely not low on the totem pole. You're nice. Yancy?
Hi, my name is Yancy D. Smalls. I'm 420 North Park Avenue, apartment C4. Before I came to Bonner Springs, I was in Edwardsville in a rehab center. I tried to take my life a couple of times. But when I came here to Bonner and to this apartment complex, you know, everything was like so quiet, you know, and I would like to keep it like that, you know. And I like staying here, you know. Bonner Springs is the best place I ever lived in my whole entire life. You know, I like the policing, I like the neighborhood. I just wish things would stay the same. I know Republicans in the White House, they just trying to shut down everything, you know, that we're trying to build so hard and raise our family, turn our lives around, you know, like me, you know, just turning my life around, you know, but I just wish that we come to all to agreement that the best option for us, you know, for all of us to keep our place and stay and raise our families and stuff. And I would just keep on continuing to pray that, you know, we keep Miss Carrie because she's fighting hard. You know, I should have been on the streets a couple of times, you know, messing with my neighbors, but she's getting everybody a chance, you know, to turn your life around, you know, but I'm just really appreciated to be here and I have y'all to come here to hear us and what we have to do to prepare ourselves for the future, you know, because my future really depends where I stay. You know, that's where I can stay healthy and I don't have to worry about looking over my shoulders or anything like that in Bonner Springs, you know. And I would give this place a blue ribbon. And, you know, where you want to live, Bonner Springs, Kansas. You know, it's the best kept secret, so shh, I ain't telling nobody else. I love it here, so thank you.
The mayor says that all the time, don't you?
My name is Hayden Barnett. My address is 420 North Park Avenue, apartment C8 in this building. I'm a firm believer, and I've always heard this growing up, and now I'm an adult, and I said all the time, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I would love to keep it just like it is, with you guys over it, Carrie right here.
Right here.
And we just keep it moving. That's all I got to say. I don't want to deal with Kansas, okay?
Yes, D. Swallows, 420 North Park Avenue. I don't want you to lose your job, Miss Carrie, because, you know, it's just, you know, like Miss A said, you do a wonderful job here, you know. I just don't want to lose you. Let's see you lose your job, you know.
Thank you.
Got two little good kids need you. They need that money.
I have a question that's kind of just real quick. You made mention of different communities that we don't have here, that they do have in Kansas City, Kansas. Could you elaborate on that? Is there a way that we could see more amenities being provided?
It's not necessarily that KCK has them. They don't look at just public housing, so they would actually look at other apartment properties in the area and what amenities they have. If they have pools, if they have outside patio fire pits, stuff like playgrounds, that kind of stuff. We don't have space for any of that. There is one lot next to Jessica actually that the last I knew it was a resident owned it. They talked about giving it to us, but then that put more burden on us because we're a staff of 2. We would have had to mow an even bigger lot, so we didn't want it at the time. We did briefly talk about building a playground on that lot. Again, it all comes down to money. If we went to RAD or Section 18, if we had to use our reserves, those are definitely something like that. But outside of a playground, we don't have the land to do anything else, really.
And some of those facilities in Kansas City, Kansas have those?
I am not sure. I can definitely put a list together of what they have.
I just wondered, we've always respected this so much in our community because it's been such an asset. And I was just thinking, are there ways to make it even better? So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm Amanda Nisney. I live at 420 North Park Avenue, apartment B12. How would it do on the projects that we had started but never got finished, like all of the front floor on the second floor and all of the first floor still need bathrooms? We haven't been able to get our bathrooms redone.
So again, it all comes back to money. When you have very little money, you have to pick and choose on what you spend it on. So for instance, when you guys have bathrooms, they're just slightly outdated, whereas the family units didn't even have showers. So having kids and not even having a shower, to me, was a big priority. So that is why we spent the money to get them showers. Obviously, it's still the plan, the goal, eventually someday to update your bathrooms. I will tell you, if we stay on public housing, that probably won't be anytime soon.
Like my apartment upstairs, I have spots in my floor that are the tiles cracking and the floor is sometimes my door doesn't want to open.
Well, that's definitely something I can have Paul look at. This is the first I'm hearing of that, so I can definitely make a work order, but as far as full remodels, I can't promise when that would be. And I've been very laxed on spending our capital money. I'm sure you guys have noticed. I pretty much halted after the parking lot and the bathrooms because Trump, for the last 2 years, now 3 years in a row, has proposed zero money in capital funding. So if that ever got approved, and I went ahead and did your bathroom remodels, right now, next year, for some crazy reason, it got approved as zero money in capital funds, and then we have a massive water break or a fire, I now have no money to take care of those emergencies. So that's the true situation that we're in right now. Like, it's just the reality. Like, the money is just not there. And what little bit we do have, I spend it. Something happens in government, and then something awful happens here, we have no way out of it. Unfortunately, it's the reality.
With repositioning, regardless of what option we choose, it will put the housing authority in a little bit better financial position.
Absolutely.
Right? Take care of
Because either way, whether we're getting that difference from the vouchers, we can get private investment, we can incur that, we can get loans, we can do all of that. Yes.
Gary, from your professional background on this, looking at RAD, looking at Section 18, which do you see is the best fit, at least at this point, not only for yourself, but also for our families here?
Out of the two, my eye has been, I initially started RAD when a year ago when we first started talking about it, but I've been slowly moving over to Section 18, just because there's more money there. Our income isn't capped there. And we have the chance every year to increase more than the slight cost of living percentage that we would get on RAD.
I didn't mean to put you in that position, but it...
No, you're fine.
This is like new to all of us.
What? Well, I'm no pro. It's taken me a year to even get to figure this out.
You're in the trenches, and that's
And you may know more, there's the high-rise in Bonner Springs, and that's owned by a private group.
Nettleton Manor?
Yeah.
I believe they were just bought,
It was just,
Yeah.
reacquired by a different group about a year and a half ago or something.
And they're eligible for Section 8.
they are Section 8, yes.
So, so some developers saw that and bought that asset from whoever owned it before, and that accepts Section 8 vouchers for that.
Yes.
Is that an option for here?
Yeah, that, I don't know details, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did some sort of conversion or whatnot and the developer went. I don't know if it's a private developer, if they're still, so yeah, that could be the option here. With a developer, you would definitely wanna make sure you have an airtight contract because they can take it and do whatever they want with it. If you don't have, that you want them to have Section 8 here, that is a stipulation to them buying the property kind of thing. If that's not in their contract, they can literally buy it and bulldoze it if they want to.
So Section 8 for residents here would be the same benefit?
Yes.
So with the Nettleton Manor, there was a significant amount of investment inside that facility. I can't remember, but it was six figures, if not
Yeah,
million.
they did massive renovations.
So the idea that they would, I don't want to worry people under that option, not advocating for it, but it would be odd for me for somebody to come in and want to buy this facility as a developer only to demolish it.
Right.
I would think that they would want to come in and make improvements to it.
But they don't have to keep it affordable housing.
Right,
if it-
that
so,
would be, right.
Yes.
They wouldn't have to unless we had it negotiated to
Yeah.
be in a
Right.
contract.
Yeah.
X amount or 100% would have
Yeah.
to be eligible for Section 8.
Yes. And you can add it, like do 30 years even, like you can make it expensive. You just have to find a developer that is willing to agree to that.
And I don't know.
It's definitely an option.
I don't know how marketable that it is with those type of negotiated aspects of the contract to a private developer.
Right.
And so that's why you've opened up to nonprofits that might be able to garner some additional benefit, not being able to profit. The private developer would have to profit, and
Right.
that's going to change the financials on the whole thing. I can only imagine.
Yeah, I've worked in the private sector and I can tell you, they don't spend their money where they should, honestly. That's why I left, so. Amanda?
So, if we had a private investor come in, would that mean that if he wanted, that company wanted to, they could kick us all out and we'd have nowhere to go?
If they, HUD told me that if we told to a private developer and there was no contract stipulation in there or whatnot, they would not put you on the street, they would give you a voucher to go somewhere else.
Okay.
But I want it to be known, that is I don't want that option. Obviously, it's your guys' choice, but I don't think that's
I'm just trying to find, get the information that we all want.
Understand.
Because I don't want to be homeless. None of us in this building or in the community, we're all on, some of us are all on fixed incomes,
Right.
and some of us, like my uncle here, who has no money, he's got cancer, and I'm paying his bills because he can't work anymore. And Social Security is taking its sweet time with him.
Well, I would certainly hope that after 5 years here with you guys, that you would know me well enough to know that I'm not going to just put you out. Like, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Mama's Carrie got a good heart.
I agree with that, but there's also, we know there's also somebody above you, you know.
I don't think they would do that either.
You know,
No, they ain't
and
gonna
that's,
do that to
You're
us.
looking at who's above you.
Good
well,
thing.
and that's why I have thanked them for, you know, being here tonight, and like she said, you know, I'm on disability myself, so is my daughter, you know, of things, so I live for a whole month off of $1,400. That's what I live off of with me and my 2 children. So this is like, if this isn't here, I have nothing to go to. I have no family, that can take me. I don't have those options that some other people do.
And we have people above us.
Yeah.
That's HUD or the federal government with what they are not giving to support this. So, look, I'm so glad that you're bringing this to us ahead of time, so we're not behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
And at least we have some time to consider all the options. None of them are great. It'd be great if the federal government recognized their responsibilities concerning public housing, but it doesn't seem as though that's going to be sustainable at the present level. So this is a lot of information to take, and I can assure you, I myself and all the council, as far as I can, we are very committed to doing what's best for all of you and the whole city of Bonner Springs. And then also Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas, and then the whole state of Kansas, and then the whole United States. We have our priorities, and that's very important to us.
Yes.
My name's Brenda Lawson. I live at 420 North Park. I live in B11 across off of Amanda. How does it affect us? I went to bed one night and woke up blind. How does it affect us blind people?
It wouldn't change any of that.
Especially I can't hardly read and write, really.
Yeah, anybody that, like, if I'm not here, somebody else comes or whatever, you would still get your extra large notices and all. You just have to let them know, like, that you need that, and then that is an accommodation that we make for you. So that would.
Like something I feel like I'm gonna do seriously, but I can't do that. At least if I think about it, I got neighbors to talk to.
Yeah. Yes.
But we don't want to lose you, Gary.
Yeah.
We don't want.
If I'm not here, we don't want you.
Well, we don't want to lose Carrie.
Carrie.
No, we want to keep
We
her.
also don't want to hold her back.
Yeah, too,
It
that's
sounds like
too,
she's
but
going to be getting a great degree, and if that means her future is forever right here, wonderful.
Well, okay.
But
Let's
if she has great future opportunities, I want to support her in that too.
I'm gonna chain her to a
I
desk.
will add, and I thought of this option, I don't know how far it could go or how far you all are willing to go with it, but my degree will be in business administration with a concentration in nonprofit. So, with that being said, the thought has crossed my mind to develop a nonprofit and go that route and stay here and.
And man, here, yeah. Your schooling.
So that.
Yeah, let's school.
And I mean, another thing I kind of wanted to point out too is we keep talking about, KCK, and there was, options of, if they took over things and stuff that, it would be through their office and stuff like that. And if there wasn't somebody here, all the time, or, to do what Carrie does, to turn in the paperwork to, I don't have a car. I mean, a lot of these people reply on public transportation. There's no way, there's no bus from here to Kansas City, Kansas.
Give them rent.
And Kansas City, Missouri.
And, there's no way for us, if we had to get to their offices, usually it's in a timely manner. You got 7 to 10 days to reply to this or that, or, and we don't have, a lot of us do not have those options to, be at, a bus don't run out here.
Resources, yeah.
We have the Tiblo that, runs here locally, but that's
They
it.
don't run on them Sunday.
So, I mean, that's another thing I kind of wanted to point out is that if, the offices had to change, there would be a lot of,
Now they got the
issues with that,
But Uber
because
doesn't take our debit card.
we don't have the transportation to, make it to their offices and, those kinds of things. So.
We're gonna keep it like it is.
Any other questions, comments?
Other questions, concerns, comments from all of you residents? Please.
Okay.
Well, we have the park right down the road.
Yeah, Lions Park right there.
All the kids
Right.
enjoy it and go down there from these units.
Yeah.
we have the swimming pool, which if you want, I think you could take the Tidwell bus there
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
for $1
Yeah.
and go swimming all day for those that cannot drive. I cannot drive any longer. There are, the why, okay. The why. There are things close to
library.
us
Yeah, library. We got Timlo days.
and and you have activities at the park.
This time when I was at the library.
So I wanted to mention that to you. You do have things that, you know, help
Amenities.
us. Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Not
absolutely.
on-site ones, but
I
close.
recognize all those things.
Yeah.
I was wondering
I
in
just wanted-
regards to public housing, what you
Yeah.
were referring to.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone recognized that fact. Not just those children, you know, everybody.
Other questions, concerns, comments from the council?
Mary.
I'm not opposed to the idea of hearing from the executive director of KCK.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bringing the executive director from the KCK Housing Authority.
And I also
Yeah.
think investigating a nonprofit option, not knowing what that would be like or some type of how that has worked in the past or what the options are, that and what that would look like, I'd really be interested in that too.
I mean, the reality is HUD said that we could even create our own nonprofit. The city could. If you wanted to be that involved, the city could create a nonprofit and run.
And what's that look like?
I can find out for you.
Because the city does have our own public housing authority.
Right.
We are our own public housing
Yep.
authority.
Right.
And so I don't know if that moving from our own public housing authority to our own nonprofit, which it wouldn't be the city, it'd be a nonprofit, but through contracts and negotiations that could be designed in a palatable manner, I think, but I don't know. what it
They
would
did
look
tell
like.
me that if we created a nonprofit, you guys could still be the board. Like, it would still, I mean, it would be pretty similar to this. It would just be a nonprofit boarded by the city instead of a housing authority.
I don't think it would change much of anything. There wouldn't be any change. It might allow the city to have, or rather the not-for-profit, to have access to this funding mechanisms
Right. It
that
could be
aren't necessarily
fundraisers.
the city is eligible to have, but it also changes some of the other,
I'd like to, yeah,
We'll see all the ramifications.
and do it, see what. Other ideas? So what's the, you made mention there wasn't really a timeline?
No, they are not requiring this currently. I've used this example with Sean. It's very similar to the non-smoking, where for years they strongly encouraged it. They provided the resources, they had webinars, they had conferences, and then you don't have choice anymore, it's required. Several housing authorities have seen or said that this appears to be the writing on the wall. They're doing the same thing. There's not a single day that goes by that I don't get an email about it. They're strongly encouraging it, pushing it. They developed an entire website for it. Like, they are pushing it hard. So I expect them to make it a requirement at some time, but I don't know how far down the line that would be.
Okay, so we have some time. We're getting ready to start through our own budget process. You're in the middle of yours, it sounds like.
No, my budget is
Yeah, we
off.
just approved.
I'm not on your money. Yeah.
No, I know.
Yeah, we just did mine in December.
December, so you're halfway through this
Yeah.
year. You don't know what your allocations will be yet. So those are all factors that we'll be working our way through, so.
Yeah. The only thing I would add too is it looks like repositioning is just going to be a positive regardless of the direction we go. And the longer we wait, the more the public housing suffers by lack of funds.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Get repositioned, no matter which direction we go, at least they get to a position where they have a little bit better financial stability.
Exactly.
So your planning processes for your next fiscal year, probably this summer? Next 6 months.
I usually do my budget with Tilly in November and it goes through in December. Like it's very, I don't have much of a budget. So it's very.
We have no money.
Yeah, my budget process is nothing like yours. It's very quick and.
Well, hopefully we can start to get some information and some answers.
Absolutely. Do you want to, just so I know how to proceed, do you want me to get all this information that you guys asked for and then we can schedule another meeting? Do you want me to get this and email it to everybody? What is the best?
I would say if you just want, this is my humble opinion, I think some of the concerns that were addressed by the residents today, the smoking and the pets and a few other things like that, if we can try internally to have a conversation with KCK Executive Director and just kind of hash some of those things out, and then try to have a future meeting with you all in a similar type of workshop type of setting, that might be the best way, just to hear, just so we get a good idea from a staff standpoint of what those expectations are there from KCK, and then have a more frank and open conversation from KCK presenting that information to you all. And we could do that. It sounds like Carrie's been doing this, she said, for about a year now. We've reached out, just to be clear, to other public housing authorities as well, not just KCK. So this is where we're at with all the ideas that have come about for this for the last, gosh, it's probably like 18 months. But this would just be a nice next step is if you guys are okay with that. And then that gives us time also to kind of look at some options with nonprofits and get a little bit more information on that. So we could just come back probably, it's not going to be maybe a month or two. We'll kind of get some of that stuff.
Yeah, and I can get with Tom, who is the ED at KCK, and get some dates that are good for him, and then get with you on what are good for you. I will say we initially talked to Olathe. Olathe wanted it too, but then we found out that we have to go with KCK because they have jurisdiction. They're right there. The only way we would have been able to go to Olathe is if KCK said no, which they wanted.
So what was it they didn't want about us in the beginning? Roof or?
Nope. So I guess when I talked to him before they hired me, he did a walkthrough. He did not like that this building's apartment doors were hollow with a single doorknob lock. And there are cracks in the middle of the third and second floors. So he thought that something was wrong with the building. Well, I didn't like that they had hollow doors with single locks. So that was one of the first things I did 5 years ago. They now have deadbolts and solid doors. So he was happy about that. And then the cracks in the floor, we actually had an engineer come out. The beam in my office was bowing. So there wasn't a beam, let me rephrase that. I'm in the middle of the building and there was no support there. So back when Brian was here, they installed a big steel beam in my office to help hold that pressure from the middle of the building going this way. So those were his two concerns. I didn't even know that, but they are sensitive.
What's the benefit to KCK to absorbing our?
The benefit of them taking it?
What's their benefit to them?
Oh, well, they actually get, what is it called? Every HCV program gets admin fees, essentially. So they would get money off of us for each unit that we have. It's nothing crazy, like it's not, I don't have an exact number, but I know it's not an insane amount. Like it wouldn't be anything that would put us out or anything. And that's why Olathe wanted it, because it's more money for them, for admin fees.
They greedy
50
anyway.
units is X amount, and it's covering you and maintenance worker there. They spread that out over more and get that extra money and perform that work with two partners. So that's their benefit.
Right. Well, the admin fees are the HCV program, so they would only get an admin fee on RAD or Section 18. If they absorb it, it's theirs. There's no admin fee. They're not issuing any vouchers or anything like I think that Tom told me that they were interested in absorption just because they want something in this area. They want water. So,
It's wide out.
Right, we don't want them to have Bonner.
Well,
Bonner is its own.
Kids can pop it up.
Bonner to turn into KCK.
Thank you all for your.
thank you guys.
Thank you.